All right, guys, we are back in the building, back with some more boxing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and all that good stuff. Now, guys, it is time. It is time for Coach Marvin Boxing to make his pick on who's going to win this super fight this coming Saturday. If you've been living under a rock, we have the biggest fight in decades at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Errol Spence Jr., the big fish, the truth, the IBF, WBC, WBA champion, going up against arguably the best fighter in the world, and Terence Crawford, the current WBO champion. Is for undisputed. It's for undisputed. This is history in the making. This is a fight that's going to change the trajectory of boxing, in my humble opinion. A fight we've been waiting for a long time. A fight that's been about 5 years in the making. It is finally here. So I'm going to give you guys my pick on who I think is going to win this fight. So let me start off by saying this. I've been a huge fan of Errol Spence Jr. For quite some time. I think I've been to every Errol Spence Jr. fight since the Ocampo fight, except for one. And that's the Mikey Garcia fight. And the only reason I didn't go to that fight is because I was in Cuba that weekend. Now, if I wasn't in Cuba, I would have been right there at that fight. Merchandise. I've purchased a lot of Errol Spence Jr. merchandise. I even have the first shirt that he had out when he defeated Kell Brook, the blue shirt with the IBF strap across there. I have that one, and it still fits beautifully, by the way. And I have some other shirts I bought too. I think I bought one at the Ugas fight, and I can't remember where I actually bought the other one. And I got some other memorabilia as well. Terence Crawford. Always been a fan of Terence Crawford, but not in the same ilk, I would say, as Errol Spence Jr. I've never bought any of his merchandise. I've never been to any of his fights, though I have watched his fights, of course, on TV, and I've ordered pay-per-views, but I just was never as big of a fan of his as I was of Errol Spence Jr. But with that said, my mother, God rest her soul, always told me that honesty is the best policy. So I'm going to be honest with you guys and who I think is going to win this fight. And I think that Terence Crawford is going to pull this one out. I don't think Errol Spence Jr. is going to be able to beat Terence Crawford. And I'm going to tell you why. Let's look at Errol. Errol is a big, strong, fundamentally sound fighter. A lot of people say that he's a basic fighter. And I say that he's a basic fighter, but I don't say that as derogatory. I think he takes those basic fundamentals and he elevates them to another level. And I think a lot of that has to do with his drive, his tenacity, and most importantly, the dog that he possesses inside. Because everybody can't do what he does. I know everybody calls him the big fish. He calls himself the big fish, but I think he's more like a cyborg. He gets in the ring and he does damage. He's done everything he says he's going to do, he has done. You can't take that away from him. Then I look at Terence Crawford. Very fundamentally sound as well. But there's some extra there. There's some icing on the cake there. And I say this a lot on the channel. The guy with the most tools in his arsenal is probably going to be the one to win the fight. I say that a lot because that's something that's very important. Skills pay the bills. The guy with the most tools in his tool belt is probably going to be the one to win the fight. And I say that for a reason. Because when times get rough in a fight, the guy with the most tools is going to be able to make the necessary adjustments to win the fight. And looking at Terence Bud Crawford and looking at Errol Spence Jr., Terence Bud Crawford is that guy. Very, very special fighter. I just don't see a scenario where Errol wins this fight because of that skill set that Terence Crawford possesses. Excellent footwork. Can fight forward and fight going backwards. Long arms, able to switch from left to right or right to left. Very athletic. And he has a very high boxing IQ. Able to set traps. And arguably, he's a bigger puncher than Errol Spence Jr. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's crazy. How is he a bigger puncher than Errol? We'll just look at his resume. He's stopped all his opponents at welterweight since he's been at welterweight. The last time Errol stopped an opponent, of course, was Ugas. But before that, I think it was Ocampo. So it's been quite some time. I think Errol is a volume puncher, and I think, he breaks you down over time. He doesn't have that one punch stoppage power like Bud Crawford does. That's one reason I think that Terence Bud Crawford's going to win the fight. Another reason, inactivity. Errol Spence Jr. has been out of the ring for over a year now. The last time he fought was Ugas. And I know Errol says he doesn't do tune-ups. But, as you age, it's important to stay active as a fighter. The last time Terence Bud Crawford was in the ring, he was in the ring in December with David Avanesian. He'll be the sharper of the two fighters, in my opinion. And that matters. Activity matters. We just saw that in the last fight yesterday with Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue. Stephen Fulton hadn't been in the ring in quite some time, so that definitely plays a factor. Another reason I'd like to say, not ring rust, but being drained. Errol Spence Jr., big, strong guy, definitely outgrowing 147 pounds. And he's definitely been struggling to make weight. He's talked about making sacrifices, trying to make 147 pounds, squeezing his way down to 147. He's a massive guy. You guys see how muscular he is. And it's going to be tough on his body. And I think, that could play a factor during the mid rounds. He could be weight drained. It's possible. As big as he is, it's possible. Terence Bud Crawford's grown into 147. He looks comfortable at the weight he's at. He's a gym rat. He stays in the gym, so it's easier for him to make weight. Errol, he's a big guy, so I'm sure he eats a lot more food than Terence Bud Crawford. That's definitely a factor in this fight. Number 4, past injuries. The car accident, the eye injury. A lot of those things can play a huge factor in a fight with a guy like Terence Bud Crawford. He's not an ordinary fighter. He's a special fighter. We don't see a whole lot of those kind of fighters. And I think that's going to play a factor as well. It could play a factor, but I think a lot of those other things that I mentioned will play a huge factor in the fight with Terence Bud Crawford. As much as I, like Errol Spence Jr. as a fighter, as much as I'm a big fan of his, I just don't see him defeating Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Bud Crawford, 10th round stoppage. 10th round stoppage. That's my prediction on the fight. So I will be at the fight. I am actually leaving soon to go to Vegas. I guess I'll check in with you guys when I actually get there. You guys let me know what you think about this fight. Who do you have? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong about this fight? You guys let me know how you feel about it in the comment section. It's the CMB. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. And I'm out. Peace.